Hey, thanks for watching my video. Today we're going to remove and replace the front wheel of a KTM 1190 Adventure. You're going to need a 30mm socket and a set of Torx bits to do this job. So the first thing I did was I loosened the 30mm axle bolt. And now I'm loosening the screw that holds the ABS sensor, and then we'll just move that ABS sensor out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. And then once we get that done, we're going to loosen our pinch bolts on the bottom of the forks. Jump over to the other side, loosen the pinch bolts on the right side. This is one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of KTM. KTM likes to use a lot of Torx bolts on their bikes. I think every other bolt would be better than a Torx bolt. And you can tell that that one wasn't torqued. So whoever put that brake caliper on last time over torqued that top one just a little bit. So we're just removing the bolts that hold the caliper on now. And then a little trick that I've learned over the years, when you're taking your caliper off, give that caliper just like a little twist on the brake rotor, and it'll push those pads in just enough that it makes that caliper slide off the rotor a lot easier. It also makes that caliper go on the rotor a lot easier when you're putting the bike back together. Alright, so the caliper's off. Awesome. Now we're going to raise the bike up in the air. In case you're wondering, I'm using a Pit Bull front wheel stand. And we'll remove that axle bolt. And as we're removing the threads, twisting it out, give it a few taps to get that axle out of the other side. And an easy way to remove this axle, because you're not going to do it with your hand, is take a towel and fold it up, put it on your axle, and then clip a set of vice grips on it. Don't use vice grips without any protection. You'll scratch up that axle, and nobody wants a scratched up axle. So once the axle's out, drop the wheel to the ground. Pull your spacers out. The right spacer goes on the right side, the left spacer goes on the left side. Then change out your tire, bring the wheel back, ready to go. And what we're doing is cleaning up the wheel seals, and then we're going to put some marine grease in the wheel seals. So here's the spacer for the left side, is going to be the larger one. And then we'll jump over to the right side. The right side's going to have a smaller spacer. We'll clean out that seal. We'll put some marine grease in. And we do marine grease because the marine grease will protect the inside of the wheel from moisture, dirt, debris. We don't need to use, some kind of high-tech, high-temp grease. You don't have to overthink this one. There's nothing on this part of the installation that really needs to be lubricated. We're doing the grease more for protection with the axle in the wheel. The wheel is not turning on the axle, the wheel is turning on the bearings. The bearings are just resting on the axle. So the only reason we grease the axle is it makes the axle come out easier next time. And that's one of the things we should be looking for, is to make the job easier next time. What can we do to make it easier either on us or on the next guy? So this is a good way of doing it. Putting a nice coat of grease. Again, this is Lubrimatic marine grease, in case you want to run out and buy a tub of it. It's fairly cheap. It's usually around $10 for a tub. So now that we've got everything lubed up, it's time to put our front wheel on. So I try to do it without using my foot. It's much easier to put your foot underneath the wheel and lift it into place and then slide your axle through. Unfortunately, my big toe that I'm holding that tire up is broken at this time, and it makes it a little bit more difficult, but I'll struggle through it. So now that that axle's in place, we're going to put our axle nut in, our axle bolt in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it down. I'm not going to torque it yet, but I'm going to tighten it down, and that will pull that axle all the way through the forks and torque it into place. And it just aligns those forks. Like I said, I'm not torquing it yet. That's not a torque wrench. And then once I get it tight, I go ahead and I back that bolt out. So that'll give me some play. And it'll bring everything in alignment once I get these calipers on. So your KTM manual says that your caliper bolts should have a drop of Loctite. So you see me putting a drop of blue Loctite on each of these caliper bolts. When I took them out, they did not have Loctite on them. But not having done this bike before, there must be a reason why the manual says to put blue Loctite on. Most bikes you don't need to put Loctite on the caliper bolts. So we've got our caliper bolts tightened down. Now we're going to go ahead and torque them. If you're watching my videos for torque specifications, I do not give torque specifications in my video. So I'll apologize for that. But you can Google it. That's how I got the torque specs for this bike. I actually found the entire shop manual with the quick Google search, and it gave me a lot of great information for removing the wheels on this bike. And we got the calipers tightened down now with just a regular wrench. And now we'll swap over to our torque wrench. And I always try to get each bolt 3 times. I click it 3 times on each bolt, just for safety's sake. So there's our caliper. So here's a little trick to align your front end instead of jumping up and down on it. When your calipers are torqued down, go ahead and spin that front wheel and then grab a handful of brake, spin it again, grab a handful of brake, and with the axle loose, it'll actually allow your forks to fall into place and go into alignment, and your calipers will be in perfect alignment with the front end. And then you just come around and tighten down your axle bolt, and then once you've got that axle bolt tightened down, then go ahead and torque down your pinch bolts. Again, the pinch bolts, I do each one 3 times. So I'll do the inner once it clicks, and then I come and do the outer and let it click. Then I go do the inner and it clicks, the outer, then it clicks, and the inner, then it clicks. And that makes sure that you get the perfect torque on your front forks. So here's the little screw that holds your ABS sensor on. So went ahead and tightened that down. Now I jump over to the right side and I'm torquing down the pinch bolts on the right side. And again, I do each one. I do the inner, then the outer, then the inner, then the outer, then the inner, then the outer. And it should, by the 6th click, you should be done. So that's my video replacing the front wheel on a KTM 1190 Adventure. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I appreciate you watching this video.